What's a quote that always gives you peace? Don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from. I need to remember this next time I talk to my boss. Heard that, brother? I like this. I've always hear another version. Don't worry about the opinions of those whose advice you wouldn't take. And now that you don't have to be perfect, you can be good. John Steinbeck. I first read this book as a teenager and this quote changed my life. I'm still a perfectionist who struggles with hyper-controlling, but this specific quote has gotten me through some hard times. Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Your comment, quote, is a really great way of succinctly summarizing something my cousin told me once, and that I think about often. My mom and my aunt are very guilt-trippy when it comes to getting their kids, and presumably others, to do the things they want. In the middle of one such instance, my cousin texted me and said something along the lines of this. Mom, aunt need to learn and understand that just because something is important to them, it doesn't inherently make it important to you. It's okay to be kind to yourself, even if sometimes it means saying no to others. It can be harmful to constantly forego your own wants needs to please others. Conversely, there are negative consequences to only caring about oneself and only doing things to benefit oneself. You have to be able to balance it and learn how to respectfully say no when it matters. And others need to be able to understand. I still struggle with this, but I'm working on it. Not really a quote, but a therapist told me to go with the plan, not the mood. Helps me to get things done on harder days. Mood changes day to day. The plan doesn't. Motivation is temporary. Determination is not. Motivation gets you going. Discipline keeps you growing. Yes. I hadn't realized how much my emotions were dictating my day-to-day, but sticking with a plan, mostly, makes me feel empowered. You will become way less concerned with what other people think of you when you realize how seldom they do. David Foster Wallace, Infinite Jest. This sank in for me when I looked at myself and considered how little time I spent thinking critical or spiteful things about other people, and that on occasions when I did, it was more on account of involuntary, internal venting than any conscious judgment. Holy she! I'm reading this book for the first time and I read that page 3 hours ago. My best friend, who was struggling with a terrible illness, used to say, "I'll survive." Or "I won't. And it'll be okay." I always thought to myself, what the F, of course, it won't be okay if you die. But then she died. And you know what? Things are okay. I've taken on quite a bit of her Zen attitude about things. I guess that was her gift to me. Wow. Thank you for all the upvotes and awards. Made my day. Glad that she left you with that. It's hard letting go, but it feels good once you can do it. I had a pediatric oncology patient that I loved, and when he relapsed the third time, his mom told me, one way or the other one day is going to be free from this. They are very spiritual and I'm not. But he has since passed, and even though I miss him terribly, I do believe he's free from it, and there's peace in that. She'd be proud. The garage is proud as well. Warehouse. Be moderately impressed. Your mistakes are life lessons, not life sentences. That would depend on the mistake, I suppose. Worrying is like praying for something you don't want. What's that old quote? Worrying gives you something to do, but it does not get you anywhere? Like a rocking chair reminds me of, our worst fears lie in anticipation. It is a far greater victory to make another see through your eyes than to close theirs forever. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people to have serious, difficult discussions. But it isn't a compelling enough reason not to have them, regardless of how it might make other people feel about you when they disagree with your perception of the world. Educating people, challenging each other's views and growing together outweighs the contempt some may express. The vitriol they may spew. What lies behind us and what lies ahead of us are tiny matters compared to what lives within us. Henry David Thoreau. Inspiring. Unless you have a parasite, the grass is not greener on the other side of the fence. It's greener where you water it. It may also be greener thanks to a generous supply of bullshit. Due to its high nitrogen levels, cow dung will cause the grass to burn. It's also greener over the septic tank. You can make no mistakes and still lose. To be pedantic, the full quote is, it is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness. That is life. I often have to tell myself something similar, based on that episode of Star Trek. Failure is not an option, only a possible outcome. You should never choose failure, but you'll still forever be graced by its presence. Lol. Not everything is a lesson, Ryan, sometimes you just fail. Card, USS Enterprise, I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. Mark Twain. This one is so good, really gets me through my weekly existential crisis. Lol, it kickstarts mine. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. This is how my parents explained death to me when I was little. They said, it'll be just like before you were born. And little kid me was just like, oh, right. Okay. Incredible quote. When someone makes bad faith criticism, well, that's just your opinion, man, the dude. That had not occurred to me, dude. It made difference to that one. My dad was a devout Jesuit Catholic growing up and spent all his time and effort trying to help people. He would always tell the same story when told he can't really make a difference. One day, an old man was walking along a beach that was littered with thousands of starfish that had been washed ashore by the high tide. As he walked, he came upon a young boy who was eagerly throwing the starfish back into the ocean, one by one. Puzzled, the man looked at the boy and asked what he was doing. Without looking up from his task, the boy simply replied, "I'm saving these starfish, sir." The old man chuckled aloud, "Son, there are thousands of starfish and only one of you. What difference can you make?" The boy picked up a starfish, gently tossed it into the water, and turning to the man, said, "It made a difference to that one. Anyway, when it all seems too much and I can't do anything to change the world, I remember that I don't have to help everyone. Just one person is enough." I love this story. I work in healthcare and literally helping one person, no matter much or little, makes you feel like you just changed the entire world. Thank you. When I read it made a difference to that one, I immediately thought of this story. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and had not suffered. OMG, I love this one. This too shall pass. I like adding, it may pass like a kidney stone, but it'll pass. Mine didn't. Was the biggest one my drive had ever seen and went undiagnosed for 10 to 15 years. By the time we figured out what it was too late, and long story short had to remove the entire kidney. But I still like the saying. You passed your kidney to the doctor, in a sense. Could have told that the Balrog? When you build in silence, people don't know what to attack. That's why I stopped telling people about my business. You can't wish badly about what I'm doing if you don't know what I'm doing. Just do nothing and you can tell everyone. That is an option. I am not doing shit. But for real though. There was a time when I was trying to lose weight, not an unusual occurrence except I did join Jenny Craig to do so. Told my friend, at the time. For the first time ever in her life, he bought me dinner. Came to my place with oxtails because she supposedly suddenly remembered I never had oxtails. There are some miserable people in the world who really try to actively destroy others. I really like, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. Quote. For the longest time, I only knew the beginning part. Jack of all trades and a master of none. I told my counselor about it once, saying I wish I was really good at something, and she told me the full quote. Really made me think of things a lot differently. Till there's a second half to that saying. Really flips the meaning too, doesn't it? Thanks for sharing. The second half definitely flips the meaning. I went on Wikipedia real quick, and for clarification, the "but oftentimes better than a master of one" part was added much later. Wikipedia says there's no source on it being used before the 21st century, while the term, jack of all trades, can be dated to the late 16th century. Interestingly, the master of none part was also a later addition to the saying, from the late 18th century. My father always called me a jack of all trades, a master of none. I wish I knew the whole quote before this exact moment. I wouldn't have felt like a flighty, unfocused failure trying so many diverse things. I hear you. Knowing the full thing changes the saying so much. So much. This is one of those moments for me. Just want to take the opportunity to tell you your comment unintentionally made a huge difference to someone today. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. A ship in harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. Smooth seas never make a skilled sailor. Similarly, a comfort zone is a wonderful place, but nothing ever grows there. One must consent to lose sight of land for a long time to make new discoveries. All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you. Gandalf the Grey. The full dialogue with Frodo and Moria is pure mithril, but it is especially that one scene in the Breaking of the Fellowship where Frodo stands on the bank of the Anduin, ring in hand, believing he just got the whole fellowship killed in his defense, and, I wish the ring and never come to me. I wish none of this had happened. Then from beyond the grave, he hears Gandalf's words, and Frodo finds the strength to carry on his quest. Remembrance of this single scene is what I credit my life to. I honestly don't know how many times I've thought maybe I should give up, and, ya know. But, so do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All you have to decide what to do with the time that is given to you. Samwise says, there's good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. That one gets me in the throat. Every time. And reassures me so much. Each of us only has one life, and it will end. Might as well stick around and see what there is to see, yeah? So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you. Words were written by a man who was in the trenches in the First World War. Mine is The Road Goes Ever On and On. Down from the door where it began. I'm reading Fellowship for the first time right now. So many quotes I love from the movies are verbatim from the book. Tolkien's writing was and is brilliant. Soon, you will have forgotten everything. Soon, everybody will have forgotten you. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. You mean the guy from 1800 years ago whose complete book we have from multiple sources? I want to correct this in its particulars to show how true it is its essence. M.A. lived in the 4th century, so just about 1700 years ago. Also, we do technically have multiple manuscripts, but they're all thought to originate from one copy mentioned in the 9th century, and mainly from the first printed edition in the 16th century. Still, such a text is so precious to humans, that people who did nothing more significant than own a copy hundreds of years ago have a Wikipedia page. I really like, a jack of all trades is a master of none but oftentimes better than a master of one. For the longest time, I only knew the beginning part. Jack of all trades and a master of none. I told my counselor about it once saying I wish I was really good at something and she told me the full quote. Really made me think of things a lot differently. Till there's a second half to that saying. Really flips the meaning too, doesn't it? Thanks for sharing. The second half definitely flips the meaning. I went on Wikipedia real quick, and for clarification, the but oftentimes better than a master of one part was added much later. Wikipedia says there's no source on it being used before the 21st century, while the term jack of all trades can be dated to the late 16th century. Interestingly, the master of none part was also a later addition to the saying, from the late 18th century. My father always called me a jack of all trades, a master of none. I wish I knew the whole quote before this exact moment. I wouldn't have felt like a flighty, unfocused failure trying so many diverse things. When I had to put my dog down. I've loved you your entire life and I'll miss you for the rest of mine. So sorry Manuel, shit, I'm now in tears and about to go hug my dog. I just had to go and hug my cat.